Well, hey guys. So for the next little thing we'll do, we've so far we've done 2 GIFs, at least officially. So this will be due next week. But if you're already done with your first 2 GIFs, then you can just move on to this one here. This is a basic instructions on how to make a GIF from a video clip, and how to sort of jazz it up. Now, oftentimes you'll see on like sort of your messenger apps or whatever, if you want to share GIFs, they usually have like reaction GIFs or GIFs that involve clips from videos that you have like the words to. Sometimes there's subtitles, sometimes they're just added in, sometimes there's animated typography. We won't get too deep into animating the typography, but we will talk a little bit about typography and what that means. So let's go ahead and open up Photoshop and make sure your timeline's open. Now, what we want to do is we want to find the video that we want to turn into a GIF. Now, I've got this clip from one of my favorite films. It's the 1986 classic called Big Trouble in Little China. If you haven't seen that, go talk to your parents and ask them to rent it, to Redbox it, to find it on Hulu or whatever you guys do, and watch it immediately because it's amazing. But here's this one sort of iconic scene where out of nowhere they're about to go. It's sort of a kung fu mystical like kind of movie. It's a bit tongue in cheek, but they're about to go storm the castle, as it were, to rescue the princess, whatever. And they do this weird toast out of nowhere, and it's become sort of a meme throughout the years for us old people.
Here's to the Army and Navy and the battles they have won. Here's to America's colors, the colors that never run.
May the wings of liberty never lose a feather.
Okay, so take that for what is out of context, but if you watch the film, you'll find it still comes out of nowhere. Anyways, I'm going to use this video to make my GIF, and the way first off we have to get this downloaded onto our computer. So if you just click on it, find the link, and whatever YouTube to video converter you find that you can use, obviously you can use. I tend to use ytmp3.cc, and that tends to be pretty safe when it comes to ads that it does. It's pretty harmless. You've got 2 choices: MP3 or MP4. Obviously, we want MP4. We want a video file. So I'm going to Control V. I'm going to paste that, convert it, and it'll convert in a second. Make sure you're using Google Chrome when you do this, because if you're using the D2L app or if you're using Internet Explorer, then it's probably not going to work. It'll probably have it blocked, especially if you have Edge, because I think Edge is like the part of the big sort of like network kind of protection stuff. So using Chrome will help you kind of like get around to this. I'll just press download, and I'm just going to press save as. I'll just save this real quick, and I'll just make sure I close this out as soon as you can. Because sometimes these ads, they make big noises, and you don't want that. Okay, so that's going to download, and I've got this. I'm just going to show this in folder. I already got a few clips already downloaded, so this is already downloaded here, and I already made a GIF. So this is what I'm going to try to do. I'm trying to get this GIF made where we have the lead character Jack Burton, played by Kurt Russell, doing his iconic "May the wings of liberty never lose a feather." And I put some little typography there just so, if in case you couldn't read his little mumble mouth lips, you can see what he's saying. You can kind of fit that in. That's what we'll do here. So if you want to find a GIF, you can pause the video, find a video that you want to do. The shorter the better, because most of the time Photoshop translates these video into being 24 frames per second. So if I were to go to my calculator here and just do a little math here. Let's have my calculator here. Calculator. If, say, for instance, we had a 30-second video, we would have to multiply that times 24. That would be 720 frames. Now, you don't have to individually do anything with the frames once you do this, but you will have a really big Photoshop file that you're dealing with, which causes a couple problems here. So I'm going to go ahead and start on this. So this has already been downloaded. I'm going to go to File, and instead of going to Scripts like we normally do, I'm going to go to Import, and I'm going to say Video Frames to Layers. Now, I can choose either one of these things. I'll just double-click on this. And it's going to give me the option of either importing the entire 20-second clip or choosing a range here. So you can kind of play through it, and you can find the moment you want it to come in. So I'll just come in here with right the moment where Kurt Russell shows up, and I'll just bring my little sort of control tag down here, make sure it shows up the moment that he shows up. And over here, I'll see if I can't get it to where it doesn't go to the next frame here. I'll just go back here until right about there, right where he erases this last, and I'll press OK, and it'll say make frame animation. So if you have your timeline up, you'll see this automatically here. And it populates that. Now the thing about this right here is 0.04, 400th of a second. So if you multiply that 25, you get 1 second. The thing is, this looks really slow when you play it. But if you were to try to speed that up in here, when you actually export it, it would be really fast. So this is the right speed, even though it looks slow in the preview. So to add the type, what's great about doing the video is that you just have to go to the very uppermost layer and grab your text tool and just click there. And if you start typing here, it's like may the wings. I'll just Control Enter, and you notice this goes on every single frame. You don't have to do make, in this case, 71 copies of this text and paste it down in every single frame. You just have to just make one copy, which is fantastic, because otherwise that'd be really tedious and a little obnoxious. So I'll just double click on this and I'll start editing this a little further. I'm using Helvetica New, which is a pretty classic sans serif font. If you don't know, serif fonts refer to things like Times New Roman or Copperplate. You notice these little tails on the letters here, and but I'll just stick with Helvetica New. You can just any blocky font you want. Just go Helvetica New, and I'll make it all capitalized here. And so I'll just type this out here. May. Oops. Nope. Stop it. All right. Once again, text. May the wings of, and I'll just make a new line, liberty. Never lose a feather. And I didn't have any spaces there. I just pressed enter to make these new lines. That's important. You'll see why in a second. I'll just move this to the side here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to shrink down everything, just kind of fit off into the side here. And the way I do that is I'm just going to select each line and just sort of manipulate the size of the type here. So I'm just going to shrink this down by hovering over my sort of font icon there, and just sort of, raise it, lower it down, and I'll just make everything about the same width. And at some point you'll notice that there's a little bit of a discrepancy between the gaps between the lines. That's what's called the leading. The leading is essentially just the space between the lines. It harkens back to the days when they used to use the metal print, and they would separate the different lines with little slivers of lead, and the spacing between, depending on how much lead you put in there, was the space between there. So you want to find your character window. If you don't see your character window, you can go up to Window and find Character, and you have your leading right here. And so you can affect the leading by just selecting the line, and it affects the way it's spaced with the line above it. So if you were to click on that and pull it up, you pull it towards the left, it'll make it smaller. If you select the line above it here, just drag it towards the right, it'll make the line a little bit space a little bit bigger. Same thing here. I'll just duplicate this, or select this, and I'll just pull this away a little way, trying to make it as even as possible. Let's see here. Let's make this slightly bigger, just so it's even with the other one here. I'll make this slightly bigger as well. And we're almost done. All you gotta do is just export it. But first off, I'm just gonna shrink this down just slightly. Hold down Shift to constrain its proportions so it doesn't warp or stretch, and I'll just make sure it's at the center, sort of centered vertically. And I'll press enter. Now, what I'll just do, once again, File, Export, Save for Web Legacy, and make sure it's set to be a GIF. Make sure it's set to loop forever. And I'll just press Save, and I'll just say Wings of Liberty 2. And save, and then we can go look at the second GIF that I made here. So I've got Wings of Liberty 2. There it is. Oh, bit of a blip there. That's okay though. Okay, so that's how you do that. So find a video clip, find something short that you can manage, and see if you can't make it into a GIF and upload it to D2L. All right, can't wait to see you guys produce.